What up, dudes? It's Gaz, and welcome back to the Warframe video. Today, we're going over the good old Ghoulsaw. This thing's been teased for multiple years at this point, and it's finally here. Does it live up to the hype? No, it doesn't. This thing is honestly a little bit mediocre, but we've got some interesting stats we can go over today, and some small synergies you could maybe utilize if you think this thing is just too cool to pass up, and you want to pick it up from the Plaguestar Reputation store, or maybe if you want to buy it from the market, because you can actually buy it from the market. And once the Plaguestar event goes away, they said there will be a way in game you can actually farm for this. So yeah, let's go over these stats. Make sure you're subbed to the channel and all that stuff to make sure you keep up to date on all these videos. All right, so we got the Ghoulsaw, the new Warsaw damage type, or weapon type rather. It's the first of its kind. It's MR7 required. So that basically means it's supposed to not be the best. We've got high mastery rank weapons that are supposed to be doing more damage, like the Guandao Prime, Cronin Prime, Graham Prime, etc., etc. So they put it at MR7. That means they set it up to fail, in my opinion. This thing's been hyped up for multiple years, and putting it at MR7 is kind of an insult, honestly. But let's go over the stats anyway. We'll talk about some small synergies and unique things this weapon has going for it. So we've got 1 attack speed. So pretty decent, 90 blocking angle, pretty high for a default blocking angle. 5-second combo duration, which is standard. Pitiful 15% crit chance. The crit chance is very low on this thing, and the crit multiplier is also really low as well. Below average crit multiplier, 1.9, and 15% crit chance is you're not even going to be seeing guaranteed orange or guaranteed yellow crits with Blood Rush. So that's already not a good start. But here's the unique thing about this weapon. This weapon is entirely unique in that its follow-through stat, a stat no one ever really thinks about, is 1. What this means is that every enemy you hit, let's say you swing this Ghoulsaw and hit 3 enemies, every enemy you hit out of all those 3 will take full damage. There are some synergies we can use with this when we involve grouping tools or things like that nature. So most weapons, let's just take a quick look at comparing this to some other weapons. Basically every other weapon in the game has not 1x follow-through. So let's look at the Vulnus Prime, one of the newest Prime weapons in the game. Follow-through stat, 0.6. Modifies the amount of damage in a single strike each enemy hits after the first one. So you hit the first enemy, full damage. If you were using the Vulnus Prime, the second enemy would be taking 60% of that. And the second enemy after that, the third enemy would be taking even less. So the Ghoulsaw is unique in when you swing at multiple enemies, they will all take full damage. And that is the most unique thing this weapon has going for it, besides its its new weapon type as well, and things like that. You got 2.15 range. I mean, it's a gigantic saw blade. You'd think it'd be a little bit longer than 2.15, but apparently DE are the masters of this. We've got 27% stash chance, which, with such pitifully low crit chance and crit damage, you'd expect the stash chance to be a little bit higher than that, honestly. As far as damage types are concerned, this thing, it's a saw. It's a gigantic saw blade, but it's not only slash damage. It's actually got mostly slash with a good amount of puncture and impact randomly thrown in there. And we've only got 197 base damage. For swinging around a gigantic two-handed saw blade, I'm going to go ahead and say 197 base damage is an insult. Let's take a quick look at some other weapons in this game. I'm looking at you. The Sheave has nearly 100 more base damage than a two-handed saw. The Sheave. The thing that, like, Grenier use when they're disarmed. There's lots of weapons in this game with higher base damage than a two-handed motorized saw blade we've been waiting for multiple years for. Okay? Yeah. Punching some dudes with the Furax Wraith is almost as much damage as using a two-handed saw. Okay? The Karis Prime has almost double the damage of a two-handed motorized saw. Alright, so now that we've gone over that stuff, the uniqueness of this thing is its follow-through. Let's go over the stance, which is going to be called Butcher's Revelry. This also comes from Plaguestar, and it will also be farmable in-game after Plaguestar is removed. So, the standing combo is going to be 4 swipes. The last swipe has some slash damage in it. Now keep in mind, this thing feels really slow if you're not running multiple attack speed mods. We're actually running 2 attack speed mods in this build currently. I've also got Arcane Strike on my Lavos. For when we get some hits on, we actually attack even faster. So that it's a pretty good standing combo, although you do get animation lock sometimes. If you're moving forward while pressing the attack button, you actually rev the chainsaw like some crazy person. And this technically does damage, although the hitbox on this attack is really wonky and weird. You'll inevitably be using this on accident a lot of the time just because of the way this game is played. But yeah, I wouldn't really recommend actively going for this attack, the running towards them like you're crazy attack. But it technically does exist, and it looks really janky. The mobility combo on this thing is the forward combo, forward blocking combo. It's where you ride the Ghoulsaw, and there's a forced ground slam at the end. You are basically stuck like that. This is one button press right here. You are forced to do that slam attack at the end of that, and you know, let's say you run into an enemy. Let's summon some enemies in here. We'll show how that combo works on some enemies. If you use the riding the Ghoulsaw combo and you run into an enemy, you get stuck in the enemy a lot of the time. So let's try that again. See, they're knocked over. I'll have some gameplay footage we can actually show how that actually works. But that combo, it honestly feels really janky. A lot of this stuff just feels janky. It looks really cool. It sounds really cool, but it's not as good as you would hope. Then we've got the final combo on this thing, the spin around and destroy. So this is that spin right there. That's one button press. So you want to do blocking, away, and then press the button. That's one button press. You press it again. You do another spin with a forced slam attack at the end, which will knock down enemies. So as far as the best combos on this thing, I do like to use that spinning one that we just showed right there. But let's show a light attack build. So even though, you know, Blood Rush, Condition Overload, and Weeping Wounds, actually I don't think Weeping Wounds got nerfed, but Berserker got nerfed. I was actually using Berserker on this thing and actually felt pretty okay, but a lot of times, you know, you're not going to be fully stacked up. So I'd say the reliability of Gladiator or Prime Fury will be probably more interesting to you. We've got 2 attack speed mods in here, so I'm going to run a Gladiator Vice just for increased crit chance because this thing just it feels so bad. This basically gets you to guaranteed yellow crits. If you want to run more Gladiator mods, you can actually get to some orange crits, but that's going to... You might reduce your crit damage a good amount if you run another Gladiator Might here, and maybe even run some Gladiator mods in your frame, honestly. So that's up to you. But yeah, just a standard light attack / build with the Butcher's Revelry stance. It's the only stance that exists. Bane mods, because this thing is mostly slash focused, so you need to run your Bane mod for increased damage. Prime Fury, or Prime Reach feels like it does basically nothing in here, but it is what it is. And Condition Overload, because even though it got nerfed, it's still a lot more damage once you start stacking things up. Guys, it's not capped at 3 statuses, by the way. They just need to learn how to write patch notes better. So let's summon in some enemies here, and we'll show how it works. Keep in mind, these are Butchers, and I'm running Arcane Strike, so you're attacking faster than without this Arcane. Alright, so do the spin combo. Builds up combo really easily if you hit a bunch of enemies. But remember, we have that really high follow-through stat, so we actually want to capitalize on that. I'd recommend using an ability like Ensnare to group all the enemies up. Look at how fast we built our combo there. Nearly a 12x combo almost instantly. So let's unpause them so it doesn't, like, there's no, like, confusion here. We're going to put invincibility on, though, because this is not really a survivability display with Lavos. All right, so we're going to group them all up, as I just said we should, because we have that insane follow-through stat. And that's going to be what you're looking at with one attack. So the entire arc took full damage, allegedly. I mean, it could be bug, honestly, but that's what you're looking at. So 117,000 with full viral procs. I did CO proc them with the Epitaph to give increased damage from Condition Overload. But think about it, like, I'm saying this thing is mediocre. A normal melee, like the Karis Prime, like we were talking about earlier, with higher base damage, much higher crit. Look at the crit stats are like almost doubles. We're at 24% crit chance, higher crit multiplier, more status chance. It's just stronger, a little bit slower to be fair. Yeah. So that's that. There's a heavy attack on this thing as well. I wouldn't recommend the heavy attack because here's the thing: the heavy attack locks you in place. It does not have force slash procs. It just is bad, honestly. So let's get this thing out, and we'll do what we said we were gonna do. We're gonna group up the enemies and use that follow through stat to our advantage. So let's just first show the heavy attack how that works. So you're stuck here. You can technically push the crouch button and slide a little bit while you're in that, but you are basically stuck in place with this this heavy attack animation. I would not recommend it at all. It has 6 hits, apparently, but just use the light attack, honestly. Or we're going to show a synergy in a little bit here. I'd probably recommend over the heavy attack, and even the light attack in the first place. So, heavy attack here. Rev it up. If they're stunned in place, I guess it's fine. Like, that was 166,000. But, honestly, in a real mission, you probably would just be dead from doing that. So, alright, before we get into the gameplay, let's go over some synergy here. And, like I said, it has the 100% follow-through stat. What can we actually use? How can we utilize that properly? Well, it's also got, on that stance, the Butcher's Revelry, there's actually a double hit on the ground finisher. So if we use Vauban, Vauban's fourth ability, Bastille and Vortex, basically makes the enemies all vulnerable to ground finishers. And the ground finisher attack on this weapon is relatively okay, and it has that insane follow-through stat, making it so the entire Vortex is probably going to get one shot, basically. So as far as a min-max build for this, I haven't really messed with it, but the general gist of it is basically get your combo built up, heavy attack the Vortex, and these should all be dead in one hit. So I think she might still be alive. Yes, she is still alive, but she's dead now. So that's the best synergy I can think of this thing, guys. Honestly, is a Vauban weapon, or like if they're just CC'd in general. Like I bet Garuda's one with the rolling attack would actually work for this. But yeah, that's the best I can think of. I mean, that's pretty decent, I guess. Let's make them all Exo Gokstrad officers, just so. The Butchers died in one hit, of course, but let's just see. You know, it is supposed to have 100% follow through, so give it another shot real quick. Keep on running Blood Rush and Weeping Wounds here. I mean, it's okay. It's okay, I guess. I mean, if they had more crit, keep on. We are running Arcane Fury as well for 100%. 180% increased melee damage as well on our Vauban, so maybe if you like Vauban, I mean, sure. I don't think that was what was really intended for this weapon. We wait multiple years to come out for it. Like that's the highlight of it. Really, is a Vauban tool for CC'd enemies. Kind of disappointing, honestly. If I was to buff this weapon, I would honestly double the base damage. I would increase the crit chance to either 20 or 25%, and honestly, dude, increase the MR. I didn't wait multiple years for an MR7 weapon. You didn't put all your animation work and all your sound design stuff and all of this, because this thing looks sick. The combos look cool. They're very clunky feeling, but they look cool. I did not wait multiple years. You did not put weeks of work into this for this weapon to be this underwhelming. You should have tried harder, DE, to make this interesting, because all it is right now is a novelty tool, and it's a joke, honestly. I'm actively telling people don't get the Ghoulsaw because it feels like MR fodder, honestly. It feels like MR fodder. If I was to actually seriously consider a melee weapon to use in the current meta of the game, first off, I'd probably just be using primaries anyway. My Kuva Brahma, my Kuva Tsar, my Kuva Tonkor, my whatever, my Tenant Envoy, it would kill 3 times faster than this thing, at least in this situation. So yeah, you're gonna have to really entice me, especially after you just nerfed all the, or not all of them, some of the really good melee mods. You gotta entice me to use these things, and 50% crit chance and 1.9 multiplier is not enticing at all. So if I were you, DE, for your new update, your Plague Star you brought back with a new weapon you've been hyping for multiple years, go buff it right now. Drop everything, go buff it, put the new war on pause for a couple of moments, and buff the Ghoulsaw, because this might look good to you, but it's not good to people who've been waiting for it for multiple years. So as far as grades, it's got low attack speed, the range feels like crap, and the combos honestly aren't that great. They lock you in place. The riding one is kind of fun looking, but it's not actually good for killing multiple enemies. Mob clearing at sea, I mean, we're not, with the advent of these AoE weapons being extremely powerful, we have to judge weapons very harshly on mob clearing. When a weapon like the Kuva Tsar or the Tenant Archiplasmor is an S-tier mob clearer, this thing cannot keep up with that. You might run out of life support if you're not getting really good enemy flow. Acolyte kill speed, not that great, honestly. I think I actually died to the Acolyte in this clip after wailing on him for a good 10 seconds, because I mean, you could go with the Corrosive build technically. I mean, the base damage is pretty low, and the Karash Prime will just be better than this thing. But, you could technically make a Corrosive build, but with this Slash build in the footage, it was average to below average at killing the Acolyte, unfortunately. Next stash potential, maybe B would be more appropriate, because it's got Impact, Puncture, Slash, and relatively okay status chance at 27%. You could technically mod that for Viral and Electric or Viral and Heat, and get, 5 procs. But is that what we're really looking at the Ghoulsaw as a CO procer? Look at how pitiful this is, by the way. I could have technically used the Epitaph to CO proc them some more, but dude, the dude's getting tickled. Let's not even forget this thing has 0.5 Dispo Rivens, because every new weapon that comes out has to have 0.5 Dispo Rivens, because, the person that used to balance Rivens got fired, or he went to a different company, and there's no fun allowed anymore. So I'd say for new Rivens, make it 0.7 Dispo off the bat, honestly. All right, next, overall grade is D, below average. Like I said, there's better melee weapons. It doesn't even take very long to find a better melee weapon than this. They're easier to farm for. Now, remember, this is 23,000 rep from Plague Star to get what you're seeing in this video today. I'd say that the Forma, like, what is it, like 8 Forma? I'd say 8 Forma is more useful than this thing. Oh, by the way, you made it this far in the video. This weapon comes with no polarities at base. So I put like 3 or 4 Forma on this thing for this underwhelming build. And I've seen people putting Umbra Forma on this thing, and it still is mediocre. So, yeah, I hate to just like rip the Ghoulsaw a new one, but they set it up to fail making it MR7 and making us hyped up for it this many years. Yeah, it looks awesome. It sounds awesome. It just isn't awesome. So, hope you guys found the video helpful and informative. Don't form on this thing. It's MR fodder. DE, if you're listening, you have some work to do to go buff this. Double the base damage, 10% more crit chance, and honestly, more crit multiplier. This thing should be at least orange critting. I should be having fun with it. Maybe even like trim up the animations on these combos a little bit so I'm not stuck in a ground slam finisher for so long, or ground knockdown slam thing as much. It's very annoying. All right, talk to you guys next time. Peace.